the year. Spring, summer, autumn or fall, winter. These are the four seasons. The sun warms the surface of the earth, the planet we live in. The tilt of the earth in relation to the sun changes throughout the year. This is what makes the seasons. Here in this picture, each season lasts about 3 months. 4 seasons makes a years. That's how long it takes for Earth to revolve or make one trip around the sun. As the Earth circles the sun, different parts of the Earth are closer to the sun than others. This affects the amount of light heat they receive.
Amma.
Earth is slightly tripped as it turns on its axis. It makes one full rotation on its axis every 24 hours. As it moves along its path around the sun, when the North Pole is tipped toward the sun and the South Pole is tipped away, it is in the northern hemisphere and the winter is in the southern hemisphere. 6 months later, when the earth has traveled to the other side of the sun and the North Pole is tipped away, it is winter in the northern hemisphere and summer in the southern hemisphere. The seasons of one hemisphere are always opposite to those other hemisphere. Spring. In the northern hemisphere, spring begins about March 21st. This is the season when more sunshine causes cooler air to be replaced by warmer air. In the southern hemisphere, autumn is beginning. The first day of spring is called spring equinox. When spring begins in the northern hemisphere, Earth has moved along its path so that the sun is directly opposite to the equator. On this day, daylight and darkness are same length of time over the entire earth. In ancient times, some people celebrated this day because it was the beginning of the growing season. Spring is the season when some birds that have been away for the winter return again. This is called migration. Some whales migrate too. Some animals that slept all winter wakes up and look for food. Spring winds are good for kite flying also. It is the season when everything seems to come alive again. Trees grow new leaves and flowers bloom. Some crops are planted.
It's not good.
Slowly, the days in the northern hemisphere becomes longer because of that part of the earth is tilted toward the sun. We see the sun higher in the sky. More direct sunlight reaches the ground for longer periods of time. Summer. Summer begins in the northern hemisphere about June 21st. The northern hemisphere is tilted more toward the sun than at any other time of year. It is the warmest season. In the southern hemisphere, winter is beginning. The first day of summer is called summer solstice. It is the longest day of year. On this day, we see midday sun at its highest point in the sky. The hottest day of summer takes place after the summer solstice because it keeps absorbing more heat. Flowers and plants grow under the warm sun. Many animals are busy raising new families. In the summertime, people have fun outdoors. They can go to a beach, swim in a lake, or read under the shade of the big tree full of large green leaves. During summer, daylight is long. We see the sun high in the sky. It might still be daylight at bedtime. The nights are shorter. Autumn. Autumn begins about September 21st in the northern hemisphere. It is the season when the air starts to get cooler. The leaves of the some trees turn to beautiful colors and fall to the ground, which is why some people call this season fall. In the southern hemisphere, spring is beginning. Autumn equinox. The first day of autumn is called autumn equinox. When autumn begins in the northern hemisphere, Earth has moved along its path so that the sun is directly opposite to the equator again. On this day, daylight and darkness are about the same length of time over the entire earth. Since ancient times, some people have celebrated this time of year because of autumn harvest. Some birds migrate to warmer climates. Animals prepare themselves for the long cold season to come. Children go back to school in many places. In harvest season, farmers gather their crops. There are country fairs too. The air becomes cooler because the northern hemisphere is tilted further away from the sun. The day grows shorter and the night becomes longer. We see the sun lower in the autumn sky. Winter. In the northern hemisphere, winter begins about December 21st. This is the time of the year the northern hemisphere is tilted furthest from the sun. It is the coolest season of the year. In the southern hemisphere, summer is beginning. The first day of winter is the shortest day of year. This is called winter solstice. On this day, we see midday sun at its lowest point in the sky. In early times, the first day of winter was celebrated as a festival to honor light, to keep away darkness, and to hope for the sun's return. The coldest day of winter comes after the winter solstice because the earth keeps losing the heat it gained in the summer. Leaves are gone from the most trees. There aren't many birds. Some animals sleep all winter. This is called hibernation. Often it is very cold. It may be time for ice skating, skiing, making snowman. Some people wear winter coats, jackets, mittens and hats. Sometimes it is nice to stay indoors. During winter, daylight is short and nights are long. We see the sun low in the sky. Sometimes it is dark even before dinner. Areas near the equator have little temperature change during the year. These places are hardly affected by the tilt of the earth. Instead, the seasons are marked by altering rainy and dry periods. 2 rainy and 2 dry seasons each year. Each day at the equator, daylight and darkness are almost always equal. At the North Pole and the South Pole, it is always cold. When a pole is tilted far away from the sun, it is winter. During parts of the winter, the sun never appears over the horizon. It is always dark. When a pole is tilted closer to the sun, it is summer. At the times, it is always light. Spring, summer, autumn, winter. Year after year, the seasons repeat themselves. Earth and its many relations to the sun are the reasons for the seasons.